Today is a good day. Today I left work a half hour later than I usually do. I stopped at the store where there was only one register open and I had to wait about 10 minutes to check out. I managed to make it home, set up my camera, and yet still I can film this video using nothing but natural light. Today is a good day because daylight savings time kicked in. Over the weekend, millions of Americans gave up an hour of their sleep, an hour of their precious weekend time, and went around their house finding all of the devices that somehow are still not smart enough to automatically change their clocks, and we jumped an hour ahead. So why do we shift into daylight savings time? Why do we change our clocks an hour ahead in the spring and then change them back an hour in the fall? A lot of people think it has to do with farmers, thinking that the time change was more beneficial to farmers, but in fact the agriculture industry was actually one of the biggest proponents against daylight savings time when it was first introduced. The concept of adjusting your daily schedule based on when the sun is up isn't a new concept. In fact, before there was such a thing as standard time, a lot of people would adjust their schedules, waking up with the sun and going to bed with the sun. So the first country that actually introduced daylight saving time was Germany during World War I. They figured that by adjusting their time, people would use less artificial light at night, thus saving fuel and energy which was required to support the war efforts. In the United States, a similar pattern followed, with daylight saving time being implemented during wartime. In fact, during World War II, it was actually called wartime. So instead of there being Eastern Standard Time, it was Eastern Wartime, which, if we just pause for a second, I think that's such a crazy concept. I've grown up in, a time period where the concept of war generally means locking up nonviolent drug offenders and drone strikes in far-off lands. The whole concept of World War II and having basically the entire industry and engine of America focused on the war efforts is kind of crazy to me, including the fact that our time zones were impacted and called wartime, but that's another story for another time. So after World War II, the daylight saving time ended in certain parts of the country, but other parts of the country decided that they liked it and they kept it. Some parts of the country made it permanent, some parts of the country decided they were never going to do it again. It became kind of a mess until the government decided to standardize things and come up with our standard time and daylight savings time that we currently have. It's been adjusted a couple of times, making it longer. In fact, just a few years ago, I think we made it a couple weeks longer. So we've basically gotten to the point now where we're actually in daylight saving time more than we are in standard time. I think that there's a lot of benefits that daylight saving time provides, and I'm really not a fan of standard time anymore. If you think about it, in the fall when you fall back an hour, the time that the sun rises and sets moves by 1 hour earlier. That means that when you're waking up in the morning, the sun gets up an hour earlier and it goes to bed an hour later. Now, from my perspective, that kind of sucks. I don't wake up super early, and honestly, I don't care if I wake up in the dark. In fact, living up in New York, in the dead of winter, on the longest day of the year in December, I wake up in the dark and I go to home in the dark. Seasonal depression is also something that I think is way under considered when you talk about the daylight saving time versus standard time argument. Personally, for me, I hate coming home from work in the dark. The fact that the sun sets from my desk, I can go into work in the morning in the dark, I can come home from work in the evening in the dark. It's just so kind of depressing that my only exposure to the sun is through my office window. I mean, this is the first week that we're in daylight saving time now, and I've been home for, it's been almost 2 hours since work ended, and yet it's still fairly bright out.
So I realize it's totally getting darker. I have no way of seeing what I'm filming, so I couldn't adjust the exposure or anything. It's gonna keep getting darker for the rest of this video, just bear with it.
My windows face east, so this isn't even direct sunlight. This is reflecting off the sky and off buildings, and yet look at how bright it still is. The whole energy saving argument doesn't even really make sense anymore. It made sense when the primary use of energy was electric light. However, we now live in a time where pretty much everyone has air conditioning and refrigerators, and there's all sorts of other power consumers. And so in fact, there's actually an argument to be made that daylight saving time actually uses more energy because people stay up and active longer into the evening during the summers, which means that they run their air conditioning longer and they watch TV later. And so it really kind of doesn't matter anymore. So that's why I propose we make daylight saving time the new standard time. Let's not deal with this whole hour change here, hour change there. Let's just keep it this way. I will gladly wake up in the dark, go to work in the dark, if that means that I can come home in the dead of winter and get an hour or 2 hours of solid sunlight to go out and do things and enjoy before it gets dark. If you live in a southern part of the country where it's nice and warm all the time, you might not really notice how much the daylight changes and how it impacts your day, but when you live up north, it really, really matters. I mean, the sun sets at like 4:30 in the winter up here, and it's just depressing. Plus, in the summer, under daylight saving time, the sun stays up until like 9:30 at night, which is just awesome. It's twilight until bedtime when I was a little kid. There's also an argument to be made that this whole changing hours twice a year has a really detrimental effect on our health. Workplace injuries go up the week after we do the hour change, both in the fall and the spring.
Actually, I lied, it's just the spring. In the fall, I guess people like that extra hour of sleep.
And in fact, people at risk, like the elderly, die more often when the hours change. It's amazing how much a simple little change can impact us. So let's just not do it again. Let's just keep this daylight saving time. Let's call it the new standard time. Let's get rid of the change, and let's just enjoy the sunlight in the late afternoon hours and just be happy. So that's my video this week, guys. I am advocating let's make daylight saving time the new standard time. Let's be done with this change. If you agree, like this video. If you disagree, let me know why. Let me know why you don't like daylight savings time, why you like the hour change or you like standard time. Also, don't forget to check out the videos I've been posting recently, and every Thursday over on Dan's channel, we do a live stream. It's a lot of fun. We hang out. You can ask us all sorts of questions. We just hang out with Maddie, and it's really good time. There's a lot of people who come every week, so I'll have the link in the description below if you want to go check that out. Subscribe to that channel, and every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. In other news, I spent too much time practicing some soldering skills and building. My brother actually gave me this for like Christmas 2 years ago. It's called the Useless Box, and I first saw this on the internet, and then some company decided to mass produce it. I can put a link in the description. It's not like sponsored or anything, but if you guys want one, it requires a little bit of soldering and just some manual assembly. But basically what it is it's just a box, right? And it has a switch on top. And if you turn it on, it turns itself off. That's literally all it does. And you can fight it. It will always win. It's smarter than you. All it wants to do is turn off. I think it's such a cool, like, useless gadget. It's really fun to just play with when I'm bored. If anything, it kind of represents like how I feel on the weekends at the minimum, right? I just want to lay in bed, and anytime anything forces me up, I'm just like, no, I want to go back to sleep. So that's it. I will be back next Tuesday with another video. Make sure you're subscribed and click that little bell so you get a notification when I post my next video. Thanks. Bye. See, the truth is, I do wear contacts, and they are not completely clear. Maddie, why is it when I start talking you decide it's time to play? I have to film this because the sun's going away. And there was only one register open. Fucking kill you, dog. So the first country that actually introduced daylight savings time, not savings. Oh my god, come on, Brian, you're running out of sunlight here.